Hello, and welcome to the Unlocking Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Nadia, and I'm so glad you are joining us this evening. Tonight, we have a very special guest. Her name is Marjorie Bowden, the owner of MLB Enterprises. Thank you, Marjorie, so much for coming on Unlocking Freedom today, to this evening. Can you please take a moment to introduce yourself to our audience, please?
I sure will. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm grateful to be here.
You're
I'm
welcome.
Marjorie Lynn Bowden. I I've been here in Alabama for 16 years. I retired from the government in 2020, and since then, I actually came to Alabama to marry my husband. That's why I moved to Alabama. He retired from Maxwell from the military, and I retired 3 years ago. And he passed away suddenly, and we're raising a granddaughter. And things changed a lot when he passed away. My granddaughter wrote a book, and I did too after I retired, to try to help widows deal with grief. And that is what I feel like God has placed in my heart to do, and I'm available to do that.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And Marjorie, I apologize for your loss. I am so, so sorry.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome. We normally start with a trending topic, and there's a lot going on, you know, in the media with, different stars
Hmm.
and just, different things.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Marjorie. I kind of want to take a moment, just a little bit. Um, okay. There's a lot going on with like different stars and celebrities and relationships and
Mhm.
things like that. Um, what is your take on the Kiki Palmer situation with her child's father? I know that's like a rough situation, and I know you've gone through some things.
Yes. For me, it it did not shock me. Um, I was a victim of domestic violence. I'm a survivor and thriver of domestic violence that started when I was a teenager.
Mhm.
So I married my child's father. We were married for 16 years, but that was a red flag for me for her, because
Yeah,
I remember the comments about clothing, even as in high school, all the other girls were running around in their dancer outfits, because I was a dancerette back then. That's what we were called. And I was always wrapped up in my cape. I was not um, to be seen in that way by other people. So when he made that comment publicly, he did not have any shame in how it may have appeared to look to other people.
hmm,
So that was really a red flag for me. And recently, seeing the videotapes of
yeah,
the abuse, it can't be denied, because, see, often people would deny these type issues. They have a
hmm,
perception of what your life is supposed to be like, and
yeah,
they have in their heads that they're not going to believe the truth. And
right,
I'm grateful that there is video evidence of what was happening to her. And I
right.
remember the days when the cops would come to the house and see my bloody face and
Oh
my
my God,
clothes torn, and
yeah,
they would just say, "What do you want us to do?" So if I say arrest him, once he gets out, is
yeah,
going to be worse. So I'm
yeah,
glad that things are changing in a way that police officers typically have to do something
right.
when they see the damages of the
Mhm.
abuse. So I can't imagine what she's gone through, because
Yeah.
that's just, to me, that's just the tip of the iceberg of
Mhm.
what's actually been happening to her,
Yeah,
verbally and physically.
yeah,
So I'm glad that she's taken a stance, and I pray that she continues to do so.
yeah. And I think it's hard, you know what I mean? Like going back to when you were talking about like the cops and stuff like that. I think at some point, I don't know how it is there in Alabama, but I know here in my city, um, it seems like it seems like they're doing more things for domestic violence and things like that. Like they're starting to shed more light on that. At least that's been, it's in the news a lot and things like that. We hear different stories and we're just like, saddened, like how, how did this happen? Especially like when someone like passes away at the hands of their abuser, you know?
Mhm. And I actually moved from where you are in
Oh,
Texas.
okay.
So
Okay.
I know the climate there. I started helping with domestic violence when I was in Texas.
Okay.
There's a family action crisis team that sits in the San Antonio police
Hmm.
stations, and we are there for domestic violence victims.
Okay.
There to help them, to give them resources, and so things have gotten a lot better because
Yeah.
while I was there, they had the cards that they would hand out to victims of domestic violence to get them help, to get them assistance, so that they didn't feel all alone.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't say the military has changed that much, but now they do have an
Yeah.
office for domestic violence. But I've been at BAMC
Hmm.
with, you know, my clothes off and them taking pictures of
Oh
bruises
my
all
goodness.
over my body, and nothing ever happened to the military member, which was my ex-husband. So
Yeah.
I pray that things have changed and that it's just not an office for appearance's sake.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mhm.
Definitely. Oh, well, that's definitely yeah, I mean for anybody that is going through that or experiencing or in a situation, my hope and prayer is that you get to safety as quickly as possible. I know that it's never easy leaving those type of situations, but please reach out to somebody, whether that be a church member or a friend or somebody. Marjorie, I know I'm kind of slightly going off topic. Um, but what kind of someone that's maybe currently in that situation, what kind of advice or what could you tell them, being that you've gone through that? What could you tell them? How could they get to safety?
Well, the thing about it is, leaving is the most dangerous time.
Yeah.
Trying to leave, you have to have a plan of action. If you have neighbors that you trust, oftentimes you can have some type of way of letting them know to call the police, like flicking your lights, but you have
Yeah.
to have a safety plan. um, Unfortunately for me, church was not the answer.
Okay.
My church pretty much shunned me for pressing charges. So
Oh,
I don't want people to feel like that's always a great place to go.
yeah.
um,
Okay.
I, Most places now have a one justice center where you go to for everything. You get all your
Okay.
resources in one place. So if you can look that information up, or you can call a domestic hotline,
Hmm.
or they have sites that have like emergency exits where you, if some the person perpetrator comes around, you could just press a button and get out. But I
Yeah.
would recommend finding out what's going on in your area. The shelters are usually very good about protection. If you want to get
Mhm.
out, usually the local shelters in your city will be a great place to start. And I really commend Kiki for talking about it. She could have
Yeah.
kept all of this to herself. She
Yes.
really could have. But I
Hmm.
think she's going to empower people to know that they can make a difference. And
Right.
those subtle little things that you may think is not abuse. A lot of people think, oh, he never hit me. Okay, but you can't spend any money. You
Yeah.
can't wear an outfit that you want to.
Yeah.
uh, he talks down to you all the time. Those things are abuse as well. And
Yeah.
your children are watching. That's what helped me to get out when I realized that children suffered. They have the trauma of the domestic violence for the
Mhm.
rest of their lives. I tell my sons all the time, I wish I could erase your memories,
Mm.
because it really affects everything, who they are. It
Yeah.
changes who they are because they're living with it.
Right, right. Now, again, we're going to continue this topic. I know this is part of not exactly what we're supposed to be covering tonight, but I want to make sure that I feel like domestic violence is a serious issue. And
It
I
is.
think that people, they need to hear about this. Now, on the flip side, if, because maybe we don't hear about this too often, if a man said that he was being abused at home, how could you, what kind of information or advice could you guide him if he came to you, and if a man came to you and said he was being abused by his wife or by, his female companion or whatnot? How would you direct him? What kind of information or advice would you give to him? Because I know sometimes we don't hear a lot about the male
Right.
part.
Right. I would really commend them for coming forward. A
Okay.
lot of times people laugh about it when men say they're being abused, but to me, they get the same resources and the same response, the same assistance that a female would get.
Okay.
Because oftentimes men are beaten down just as women are. Their
Right.
self-esteem is in the toilet, and they don't know what to do. And oftentimes they don't speak out because of the stigma attached to a man asking for help
Yeah.
because of abuse. And I just would recommend people get out before someone is killed. When you see the 60-year-olds who, the man blew his wife's brain out, usually they've been going through some things for a long time. So if you don't get help, if you don't get counseling, if you both don't work on it, it is
Yeah.
going to continue.
Yeah.
So the best thing, a man could do, a woman could do, is try to get counseling to help figure out what the issues are,
Yeah.
and help them to that they can control themselves from the abuse.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Again, domestic violence is a serious, serious issue. And Marjorie, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. You know what I mean? I know that that's traumatizing. And then imagine, you got the after, once it's like it doesn't stop there. It's like after that, the individual has to deal with trauma and then, getting possible counseling, for that. So
Right.
it's a, you know, I don't want to
It's
say a
it's a
battle.
sad.
It's
It's
a
sad
yes,
because there are a lot of people, women especially, who are not prepared
yeah,
to leave. I consider
yeah,
myself blessed.
yeah,
I chose to stay to keep my quote unquote family together, but
right,
there are people who have no finances to leave. They have
yeah,
nowhere to go. They
yeah,
have family. There are a lot of women who laugh about the situation of domestic violence women. They say that could never happen to me.
wow,
I would never be in that place. But they don't know they're probably saying that and hindering someone they love from speaking to them about domestic violence, because they
yeah,
are putting them down right in their face, and they don't even know it. You would be surprised at the number of women who are living with domestic violence.
yeah,
And so I would encourage people, don't talk down about those who may be in an abusive situation.
yeah,
Try your best to help them. Try
yeah,
your best to just be um, someone that they can talk to, and not shun them because of what they're going through.
yeah.
Because it could be your mother, your sister, your aunt, your cousin, your best friend.
Somebody, yeah,
Hmm.
somebody close
Hmm.
to you.
Yes,
Yeah. So, and I agree, like we should not judge because we don't know what is going on in somebody's household. You know what I mean? We shouldn't be judging,
exactly.
and we shouldn't be saying, oh, well, I'd never. And sometimes
Mhm.
people say I'd never, and they end up in, unfortunately, they end up in a similar situation. You
Well,
know what I
some
mean?
women, it's interesting because they may not be being abused physically,
Yeah.
but there are other things going on in their marriage. They don't even realize there's abuse in itself.
Yeah.
So we have
That
to
is
be
so true.
careful. We have to be careful about how we treat others.
That is very true. You are absolutely right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Margie. Thank you for giving our viewers, words of wisdom and stuff like that for domestic violence. We're going to go ahead and switch gears. Um, if you guys are tuning in tonight, thank you so much for tuning in. We were talking about domestic violence with Marjorie. She has a wealth of knowledge. So we're going to be speaking to her some more. If you haven't shared the video, the live, please go ahead and share the live. And grab a friend, grab a cup of coffee, sit on the couch, relax. We have, again, we have Marjorie joining us tonight. Share the live. I also want to just plug in. I have my 1849 shirts. This is one of the shirts that I have that's on my website, 1849.live or .live, however you want to say it. So these are for order up there if you'd like to order these shirts. I also have my books as well. This is the Aunt Lucy book, so I just want to put a plug. This is also on Amazon and it's on my website. It's Aunt Lucy's collection of life lessons. And then I have another 1849 shirt as well. This is on my website. So I just want to, in case anybody's interested, I just want to go ahead and plug that and plug these shirts. This is one of my 1849 shirts again. So I just want to plug that. Marjorie, you said you have some books, right? I think you said.
Yes, my granddaughter wrote this book, Rainbow of Tears of Joy, when she was 9 years old. It was published when she was 10, and it talks about remembering the ones you love, when they depart. And she wrote this when her papa passed away. And it's on my website at marjorielynbowden.com. And when I retired, I wrote this book, Reaching the Rainbow Through the Storms. I felt like God has not taken me through the storm for me not to share how I came through.
Right.
So it's available on my website as well. And it talks about empowering widows to embrace grief and reignite hope and live again.
Okay. Well, you guys go ahead and grab Marjorie's books. Marjorie, what was your website again where the audience can find the books?
marjorielynbowden.com.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. You guys go grab Marjorie's books. You're going to love them. All right, Marjorie, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Okay. Well, we're already in, but we're going to dive in further.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I want to ask, how did you begin this journey of helping people with grief?
Well, the grief part of it, it happened when my husband passed away suddenly. I had never lost anybody that close to me before. Wow. Both of my parents were still alive at the time, and I thought that would be the worst grief that I could go through. But as far as dealing with death, my mom, she passed away in 2018. She was a comforter. So my mom was a person who was always there for people when they passed away. She would be there to clean their homes and cook food or pray, read scriptures. She was like that person that people knew would be there for them. Yeah. So death has never been anything I was afraid of. I've always been around it. I had to go with her wherever she went. My father always worked at night, so I was always with my mom. If people passed away, she would be there. And I went to a lot of funerals. So death is not something that frightens me. Okay. I dream about death. My mom is a dreamer. Yeah. Was a dreamer. And I, there are certain things that come to me when I know someone close to me is going to pass away. So death has not been anything that I'm afraid of. I watch my parents give so much money to different people's families when they passed, they needed money to pass away. So my parents were, they always believed in insurance, and the equivalent of what my parents did back in the 70s and 80s is like the GoFundMe now. Okay. Yeah, because everybody pitches in to put somebody in the ground.
That's right.
So when my husband passed away, it was just, he had prepared everything, because I told him, babe, if something happens to you, I'm not sure I'll be able to function. So when we went to his hometown, he had set up everything with the funeral home, paid for everything. And the funeral director told me, if anything happens, here's my card, call me, and we got you. So that's one of the things as a death doula, I try to help people to understand death is inevitable. We are all going to pass away from here. So let's do whatever we can to prepare for it.
Yeah.
There's a thing called a living funeral, where you get to be there when you die. Everybody who loves you, you can have a party and everybody is there to celebrate you, because when you're gone, they can't do that. No. My dad doesn't know he had this, but he turned 90 in January, and people
Wow.
came from all over, and he heard how he was appreciated. He felt
Aw.
the love,
Yeah.
and so those are some of the things that we can do.
Yeah.
As a deaf doula, I've spoken to families who have not been able to speak to one another kindly when
Oh,
dealing
okay.
with a death of, well, in this instance, death of their mother.
Yeah.
Um, Getting them all together so that they can sort things out
Yeah.
and be on one accord. Sometimes it
Right.
takes an person from the outside to really be able to calm the room and
Mhm.
allow people to speak to each other with love. Remember, we love each other.
Yeah.
It's not about the things, it's not about that argument we had 20 years ago. So those
Yeah.
things are important because people sometimes want to settle things before they leave this earth.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Wow. Um, I want to read some of the comments. I think I want to shout out to Sister Kathy. Thank you so much, Sister Kathy, for joining in. And Jonah, thank you guys. I think Jonah had mentioned she had one before her mom. She said, my mom had one too, her 69th B day, and we didn't know it either.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Jonah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that they could have, I've never heard of like a living one because I mean,
Mhm.
you normally think, but I think it's sad, like when families are not able to get on one accord, like when someone has
Mhm.
passed away, because it's like, well, who's going to get this? Who's getting, so and so's curio cabinet, or who's getting in the, like you think about all this stuff that people fight over, and it's like, wow, like that's super sad. I'm like, if you
Yeah.
want the curio cabinet, here. I mean, we should be celebrating like the person's life and coming together, and most importantly, making sure and hoping to God that they were saved. You know what I mean?
Yes. Mhm. And
Um,
that's where a deaf doula can come into as well and talk
yeah.
about those spirit things of a spiritual nature that people
Hmm.
want to, because there are some people who come to a realization of God on their deathbeds.
Yes, they
So those,
do.
yeah, that's so very important. And it's
Yeah.
to me, it's important. Like a will is great, but
Yeah.
without specifics, it's gonna cause some problems. So
Yeah.
say who's getting that curio cabinet, say who's
Yeah.
getting that jewelry, be prepared so when you leave here you can do your best to squash the squabblings, because one
Yes.
thing about it, when you just leave it, there's somebody who has to make the decision, so it's going to be some
Hmm.
problems. So as
Yeah.
long as you say yourself who gets what,
Yeah.
you're alleviating a lot of pain and a lot
Yeah.
of anger
Yeah.
among family members. So those things are very important. And even things like do not resuscitate,
Yeah.
how long you want to be on life support. Make
Hmm.
those decisions for yourself,
Yeah.
so your family doesn't. I've known people who agonize over decisions like that. Help
Yeah.
your family out and leave specific instructions so people don't have to carry that burden with them and
Right.
people aren't fighting about it.
Right, exactly. They're like, "Oh, well, this person should, do this. Maybe they want to be cremated. No, let's not cremate them. Let's do this. Let's turn them into a rock. Let's turn them into
Right.
a pebble." Like, it's like,
Mhm.
wait a minute. Like, is that even what they would have wanted? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
Um,
it's so important. We have so much, we don't have a control over when we pass away,
that's right.
but
Yeah.
the things that happen, would you like to be at home?
Yeah.
What music would you like played? You
Right.
know, do you want jokes told? See, I'm a Showtime at Apollo person. If I know I'm passing away at home, y'all have fun. Play my music because I love to dance. So, y'all have a party,
Yeah.
because I'm going to a better place. So
Right.
I'm good with it. Have some pictures rolling in case I'll come back to consciousness and I can see my life right there. So you can
Yeah.
have such specific plans, what
Yeah.
you have on, what you want your body, what oils you want your body anointed with.
Yeah.
Those things, it brings people together,
It
and
does.
and um and it really helps calm the room.
Yeah. Most certainly. Okay, so we're kind of slightly switching gears, but how did you meet your husband?
My husband, I
Yeah.
called uh, these type of things a God thing
Okay.
because um, I was in Germany with my ex. I was in the choir at
Okay.
Vogelway in Germany,
Okay.
and
You can sing, Marjorie.
I used to be able to. It's been a long time since
Okay.
I've been in a choir. Well,
Okay.
actually since I've been here,
Okay.
I haven't been in a choir for, well, maybe 10 years or so.
Okay.
But
Gotta warm up those vocal cords.
I love to sing. I would blow everybody away because I have a very loud voice, very loud
Oh, okay.
voice. I'm a
Okay.
high soprano, very high.
Wow. Okay.
So there was a guy who played for the choir named Frank,
Okay.
and I knew his wife. And then I moved to Texas. I was in the choir at my church there, and lo and behold, look up, and he's a musician for the choir there. So okay, there's Frank again. Um, and his wife started working at the job I was working at Randolph Air Force Base, at the Air
Okay.
Force Personnel Center.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, you guys are back, you're back in the area, you're working here and everything.
Yeah.
And then one day I looked up, Frank was my QB mate. He had been hired and we worked together side by side. But he
Yeah.
became like my big brother.
Okay.
And he would talk about his friend D. They used to
Okay.
be, he was a musician at a base in Florida, and my husband was the choir director. And he
Okay.
always talked about his singing and how he loved to sing. So I was listening about this guy named D, but I didn't know he was talking to D about me.
Oh,
So
okay.
one day we started debating about stuff, and D and I started emailing back and forth. And then we started talking on the phone. That was
Okay.
August of 2006. Um, I was out of a relationship that I was with somebody I knew I was not going to marry. So I
Yeah.
told God I was ready to get married.
Yeah.
And God knew what my standards were,
Yeah.
what he put in place is what I wanted.
Yeah.
And our D and our backgrounds were so similar,
Okay.
with our parents and growing up and everything. And I was in love with him before I saw him physically, before I physically met him.
Yeah.
And he decided to come for my birthday in December 2006. And I ran through the parking lot. Of course, he stayed on base. I ran through the parking lot and jumped in his arms. It was like
Aw.
in a movie, something totally different for who I am. Most people know I don't operate in that way, but it was just something about this man.
Yeah.
And and so in January, I came to Alabama to celebrate his birthday, and he
Okay.
asked me to marry him.
Wow.
And I started crying. I'm just not a very had not been a very emotional person, but
Yeah.
he was just everything. A gentleman, loving, kind, God-fearing man, loved to have fun. A lot of people didn't see the side of him that I did. Uh, but I probably had about 20 years with the government by then. I wasn't giving up my career. So it's like,
Yeah.
I got to get a job there.
Yeah.
So we weren't getting married until I got a job and I moved here.
Yeah.
And I applied Birmingham, Tuskegee. I didn't even know what places were, but I was just trying to get to Alabama. And, and I got a job. And God blessed me. I had applied for like 100 jobs. But
Wow.
the colonel who selected me, he just out of the blue, he picked me based on my records. I didn't have an interview or anything. I was trying to find out who is this person, what job is this, but he
Yeah.
just picked me on my records. So I packed up my car. I had my boys come and get whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
Uh, Sold everything on Craigslist, like in a weekend. Cleared out my house, and
Wow.
I packed up my car.
Yeah.
31 July of 2006. Yeah, 2007 was my last day at work. And
Wow.
I left work with a packed car driving here to Alabama. I got here on the 1st of September, and we got married on the 6th of September. And
Wow. So it was a fast.
oh yeah, it was something that I
Wow.
mean, and I didn't tell many people, but the people
Yeah.
I told, they were like, "You selling your house? You moving? You don't even know this guy, you know?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know what? When you pray for what you want to, and you know God has answered your prayers,
Okay.
there is no way that I'm going to say, God, no, I don't think you know what you're doing. You know what I
Right.
mean? I
Right.
believed, I believed in my answered prayer."
Yes.
Because I felt like I had been obedient to God. God
Yeah.
knew what I wanted. God knew what I had been through.
Yeah.
God gave me a man that was everything I wanted and more. He was
Wow.
everything I didn't know to ask for.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we had a wonderful, wonderful time. It was just a beautiful relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he studied me. He was a man who studied me. He,
That's good.
sometimes, yeah, very good,
Yeah.
very good, very good. So it was like a whirlwind for me. I didn't know that he first time he met my father. He asked my father, you know, they told him that he wanted
Permission.
to marry me, and I didn't know that
Wow.
until my husband had passed away. I had no
Okay.
idea that they had had that conversation. But he was
Wow.
just a God-fearing man who loved to sing. He was a homebody, but yet he
Oh.
was an outdoorsman. He loved
Okay.
TV. He loved movies. He could quote movies, movie lines, but
Yeah.
he loved fishing and he loved hunting. It was
Yeah.
nothing for him to go climb a tree and go to sleep. So he
Wow.
loved being outdoors.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful.
Wow. It sounds like y'all definitely, had a beautiful marriage. And I like that you explained that, Marjorie, because we live in a day and age where sometimes it's like, women are in these relationships for lengthy years. And this is not a knock to anybody, but I feel like when a man knows, he knows, and he's going to go after what he wants,
Hmm.
right? And so I want women also, and even if there's men out there that are wanting to get married, I want them to be set free, right? And I get it, everybody's situation is not cookie cutter and it's different. But I specifically want to encourage the ladies that are in lengthy, relationships, that when a man knows, he knows, and he's going to marry you, if if he chooses to,
Right.
but you don't have to beg. You don't have to plead. Margie, I didn't hear you saying, oh, I had to beg this man to marry me. You
Mm-mm.
didn't have to. You didn't even know he went to go talk to your dad. So ladies that are listening to this, that are in lengthy relationships, of course, you need to go pray to God, and you need to have peace about it. But, you know, because you're not the first person that I've spoke with about that. But when a man knows, he knows. If a man
Mhm.
wants to marry you, he's going to marry you.
Yes.
And so I just, want you ladies to be encouraged to know that, and be in prayer, being prayerful if you are in a lengthy relationship where maybe you want to be married, but maybe the guy hasn't proposed, or he keeps telling you, oh, maybe later, later, later. You might want to go to God on that and really pray about that. So I think you guys, some chains then probably then got broke off from Margie's testimony, talking about her husband.
Well, what's one thing that's important to me is believe what the Holy Spirit tells you.
Yes.
Um, a lot of times we feel like we can change people or we can become what somebody wants us to be,
Right.
and that'll make a difference. But just listen to the Holy Spirit. Some people call it the gut, some people call it the intuition. Just
Yeah.
listen to what God has for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
And
Thank
be
you again.
specific with God. Be specific. I was very specific. Uh,
Yes.
I mean, down to the nitty gritty. I was very specific about what I wanted, and like I
Yeah.
say, He gave me what I wanted and more.
Yeah. I love that though, because I feel like God does do that. And like the testimonies, I mean, again, I've spoken to other people that have been married like for lengthy amount of times, and they say the same thing. Like they may have prayed about something specific, and they basically their minds were blown. How God just blessed them with their spouse. You know what I mean? So yeah. So thank you for sharing that, Marjorie. I feel like that's so amazing. Okay, so I want to also ask you, Margie, can you please, well, I think you kind of already described this, because I was going to say, can you describe the type of marriage? I guess, can you kind of describe the type of marriage you had? Like, how would you describe that? I know you kind of went in like a little bit describing your husband, how you met and everything, but how would you describe your marriage per se?
I, you know, it's cliche to say we were made for each other, but
Yeah.
we were on one accord.
Okay.
Um, we discussed everything before we got married. I mean, the
Yeah.
conversations were great. I love a communicator. I like to talk. I like to get to the details of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, and it made the transition smooth because it wasn't any surprises. You know, we had
Yeah.
discussed everything. My husband had talked about adopting, and I
Okay.
remember saying, "Nah, we might think about fostering some kids at first, you know, but
Yeah.
but then God made it where we wound up raising our granddaughter. So God gave him what
Okay.
he wanted anyway. So
Yeah.
just being on one accord, and we were older, you know, we were
Yeah.
in our 40s. So um, we were clear about
Yeah.
what we wanted. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
clear about everything. So it makes a difference when you're able to communicate. I don't think I could. It would be difficult for me to be with anybody who did not communicate, because
Right. Yeah.
when you know when people say, "Oh, he just doesn't talk much," or I that would not even be anything I could deal with because
Right.
communication is everything. You know,
Yeah.
we were on one accord before
Hmm.
we got married, and I think it's very important to be friends. You know, because
Yeah.
the two of us as friends, we loved singing and partying, and it would be the two of us, just the two of us, and we can make a big ruckus. And just being able to have a friend,
Yeah.
not just your lover, but a friend, somebody you want to be
Yeah.
around and
Yeah.
all the time. And we had our different things. We already knew that I was a traveler. I like to go. He likes to
Yeah.
stay at home, but he likes to be outside too, you know. So,
Yeah.
those are the things that you talk about, and you really be on one accord about. Being on one accord is a beautiful thing. And I always say, two working together are better than one. The word tells us two are better than
The
one.
word.
So I
Exactly.
do believe that. I do believe that.
Yeah. No, you're right. I want to jump to some of these comments. So it looks like one of my aunts, she was saying, "That's love right there." And what else? I could just hear her voice. And then Jonah, she said her and her friends were just talking about this. Dating, trying to date now is like pulling teeth when it comes to communication. And I agree. I think communication is so important, and you got to think about it. Like for those that are dating, this is something, this is the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You got to talk about something, it can't just be silent, you know. And I like how the way you describe your husband, it sounds like he really was your best friend, Marjorie. And I know, like, in my Bible study that I attend, they do talk about how your husband or your spouse is supposed to be your best friend. And I just like when you were talking about your husband, like you could really tell, like you just lit up. You know what I mean? You could really tell that you love that man. You still love him. You know what I mean? And he was your
Mhm.
best friend. So I think that's
Yeah.
amazing, like, to have that, to be able to be like, you it's like having a sleepover with your best friend, like forever, you know what I mean? Like you can do everything. Go, oh hey, let's go have ice cream together. Hey, let's have movie
Yeah.
night, board games, like
Hmm.
let's
Hmm.
go sit outside and so I love that. I think that is so
Yes.
cool that you had that, you got to experience that. And I like how God answered your prayers. And so, ladies,
Yes.
those of y'all that are believing God for your spouse, be specific about
Hmm.
what you want. Know, of course, your deal breakers. Know what is okay to compromise on, I mean, it's okay if he's not 6'5" with a six pack. I mean, those are kind of things that you can compromise on because at the end of the day, it's about character and who you can see yourself with. Can I see myself with this man for the rest of my life? You know what I mean? Can I
Hmm.
really see myself? Is this my best friend? Can I laugh? Can I joke? I mean, I feel like you got to be able
Yeah.
to laugh in your marriage. It can't just be
For
all bills,
sure.
you know?
For sure. My husband was the best imitator of voices. Oh my gosh. I would be on the floor dying laughing. He was great, a great dancer too. He really did
Aw,
dance outside of the house, but
yeah,
we had a good time dancing around here. So I
yeah.
think you have to have somebody that you can have fun with. Well, me
Yes.
anyway, because I love
Yeah,
having fun. I love
yeah,
life. you know.
Yes.
People say, oh, you're everywhere, you're always doing this, that, and the other. But I love life. I've always
Yeah.
been that way. Even when I was with my ex, you know, I still was out and about in the community helping other
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
you have to have somebody who's, you know, who can match your energy.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, Margie. That is super awesome. So, ladies, okay, there is hope. Okay, she just gave us her testimony. There is hope out there. There are men out there, especially, even in well, I'm not going to tell my age, but I'll say even in this generation, there are men out there that can communicate, and keep believing God. We've been talking
Mhm.
about in Bible study about faith for a spouse and things like that. Be specific, you know. Um, so yeah. Okay, so Marjorie, we're gonna kind of change gears a little bit. What are the stages of grief, and can you explain each one?
Sure. Um, the first one is denial.
Okay.
Um, and that's when we can't believe what's happening. My husband left home and didn't come back. He left for work and didn't come back. He passed away at work.
Wow.
And I had never not been in touch with my husband. And I traveled. I would go to the mountains by myself for a week, or beach by myself, and we were always in touch. So
Yeah.
when he wasn't answering the phone, I knew something was wrong. Called the hospitals. After a while, it was interesting because the lady at Baptist said, "Ma'am, you're calling the same hospital. We're in the same system." But I thought I was calling different hospitals, but just trying to
Yeah.
find where he was. But it was hard to believe that he was gone. For a while, would it just expect him to come through the door. I
Yeah.
would expect him to come home because it was so sudden. My first time going back to work, I nearly almost passed out when my phone rang because
Hmm.
I was expecting to see his number on the call ID. It was
Right.
just a weird
Yeah.
moment for me. So denial, it's like a kick in the gut. You don't want to believe what's happening,
Hmm.
um, especially when it's sudden, because it's like a dream world. And the next one is anger.
Yeah.
I was in that area for a while. I was
Hmm.
mad. I was hot. I was hot at him. My husband had been a certified trainer. He knew the body. I always told him, why weren't you a doctor? He was just good at determining diagnosis from symptoms and things like that. And
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know, and he was just to me he was like a healing spirit.
Okay.
Um, so it's like you knew something was wrong with you. To me he had to have known. It's like, why didn't you say something? I was
Yeah.
angry at the doctors. I ordered all of his medical records from the time he entered the military until this is his last appointment at Maxwell.
Yeah.
Because I found things where I think were undiagnosed. I was just angry. I was angry at his job and the people there. I feel like he was just stressed out. Um, so that was a place that I went to, and his voice would ring
Yeah.
in my head because I wanted him to quit his job, and
Hmm. Hmm.
and he would always tell me stuff, and he said, "Now I don't want you to do anything to anybody. I just want you to know what's going on." But
Yeah.
he believed that God was his avenger. He said,
Yeah.
"Baby, I can't. I'm not gonna let people change me from what God had me to be."
Wow,
Um,
that's good.
yeah, and so he never fought back. He was not a person who would fight back about situations and circumstances, but um, so I was angry at different things that had happened, and angry at him for not standing up, and I was angry at myself for not making him quit, not stand
Mhm.
on him to get out of there.
Yeah.
So the stages are like a roller coaster. You can be all over the place at any time.
Yeah.
The bargaining stage is like, if I would have done this, like if I would have kept on him about retiring, maybe
Yeah.
he wouldn't have, had all that stress on him.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you can't. change anything, but you feel like, what if this, what if that?
Yeah.
And that's a part of the grieving process. And
Mhm.
then you have depression.
Yeah.
Now, depression, it can go to the extremes where you don't even get out of the bed.
Right. Yeah.
God blessed me with my granddaughter where I had to go on. I
Yeah.
had to get up and get her to school, get her ready. She was involved in so many activities. I couldn't just lie down and die, you
Yeah.
know, even
Yeah.
if I wanted to. It was when you have people around you, sometimes somebody has to step up and say, "Hey, we got to get you some help,"
Yeah.
because this you're going to a dark place that we don't want to see you be in, and we don't want you to stay in that place.
Right.
So it's very important that loved ones watch people. We don't have many people here, but
Right.
I thank God that He orchestrated things that my granddaughter was here,
Yeah.
because I've often said I'm not sure where I would have been.
Yeah.
I may have sold stuff and just become a vagabond and just
Mhm.
travel from country to country. I don't know where I would be
Yeah.
if God had not blessed her to be with us. So
Yeah.
depression is real.
Yeah.
Depression is very real. People lose weight, they can't sleep, they don't want to eat, lose weight.
Right.
So and no two people will grieve the same.
Right.
So it's an individual journey for everyone.
Right.
The last one is acceptance. When
Mhm.
you come to the place where he's gone, she's
Mhm.
gone, they're
Yeah.
not coming back. This is final.
Yeah.
Um, I have to deal with it,
Mhm.
because you can get stuck in a place if you don't um, go through these stages. You
Right.
may they may be short one in one stage, long time in another. It may come and go. One day you can go through all five stages. So
Wow.
it's not it's something you have to go through. It's
Mhm.
something you cannot avoid.
Mhm.
And I grief is not just about death, because I've seen a lot of people grieve the loss of a job,
Okay. Yeah.
um, a pet,
Yeah.
a relationship. Divorce is like a death. It can be like a death.
Yes. Yes.
So there are people around us who are grieving all the time,
Mhm.
even if it's not a physical death. Um, Depression can come about because of loss of those other things as well. So we just have to um, know that it's okay to grieve. It's
Yeah.
okay to go through the stages. As
Mhm.
and my thing is always keep moving, keep
Yeah.
going, just keep
Yeah.
going, go through it, go
Yeah.
through that journey.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, Marjorie, because I feel like you're right. Grief it's not just necessarily about the loss of a loved one, because like you said, people sometimes they lose jobs and it could send them into a dark place,
Hmm.
and they're wondering, okay, how are they gonna, pay for things, or even like a pet, like you said, a pet, because
Yeah.
a pet is just like family.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like having a kid. And
Yes.
so yeah, and that takes time. Like it takes time to go through the process. And I like how you mentioned how sometimes, one moment everything could be going good. And then the next moment you start, thinking maybe about that loved one.
Hmm.
And then it's like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I mean I feel like grief definitely it has its different stages, and
Yes.
it's not just always about the loss of a loved one. It could definitely be, other things
Hmm.
that have transpired in one's life. Um, After losing a loved one, is it important to seek out counseling? And if so, explain why or why not.
And it's an individual journey. So
Okay.
not everyone is going to need counseling, like the next person.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes people can see it for themselves. Other
Mhm.
times loved ones would have to point it out for them. If you see someone who seems to be stuck,
Yeah.
Um, it's okay to walk with them. I'm a life coach. I will walk with those people who are grieving, who need help,
Yeah.
who need assistance, because not everybody can deal with it. Not
Hmm.
everybody wants to deal with it.
Right.
Um, and it's so individual, the process for different people that
Hmm.
um, some people can just get by their own prayer and meditation
Yeah.
and their faith, their strength in the word. Some people like support groups.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when my husband passed away, I could not find support groups in my area. Um,
Wow.
so um, that's something that people can seek out.
Hmm.
But counseling is great.
Yeah.
Counseling is great. If you're open to it and you want to move, you're ready to move, counseling is a great avenue. But no one, only to me, a person knows unless they're down deep in the doldrums where they need somebody to come
For
alongside
sure.
with them
Yeah.
and
Help
work
them.
with them. Hmm.
Yeah. And Jonah, she mentioned you have to be ready for therapy, or it can be overwhelming. And I can see that because
Yeah.
it's like if, again, regardless of what the person is going through, what type of grief, whether that's a loved one or a pet or a child or job loss, you have to be ready to face, what they're going to ask you because therapy, they're going to ask you, if you have a good therapist, they may ask you some tough questions.
Hmm.
They may pull things out of you that can really be triggering. And then you got
Yeah.
to figure it out. Maybe this person was, maybe someone passed away and this person was who they relied on. Maybe that was their rock,
Hmm.
and maybe that the codependency might come out, and maybe if they look back in their childhood, maybe they had a history of codependency, or whatever that may be. So I definitely agree. You got to be ready for the therapy because you might have good days. You might be angry at your therapist because they're
Yeah.
asking you questions that you don't like, but
Hmm.
but it's part of the healing or can be part of the healing process.
Right. And it's very, you have to be willing to do the work
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
it is work. It's not an easy thing to do. You have to be willing to go through it.
Yeah. You got to go through it. Yep. That's so true. After losing a loved one, how do the remaining loved ones pick up the pieces and move forward from their loss?
Everybody responds differently
Okay. Right.
because I believe that God doesn't take you through things for no reason at all. For
Yeah.
me, it was to be able to help others.
Hmm.
That's what helps me.
Yeah.
I always feel like when you help other people, it takes your mind off of yourself
That's right.
because you have somebody else to concentrate on, um, and you don't feel so badly about what you're going through. Because honestly, whatever we're going through, there's somebody who's going through something that you cannot believe.
Yeah.
So, so helping other people helps you yourself.
Yeah.
When my granddaughter talks about remembering those you love,
Hmm.
memories, I always put memories rock.
Okay.
You can do things that will bring you peace about your loved ones being gone.
Yeah.
You can repeat um, traditions that you had,
Yeah.
or make new ones because of them. I try to um, do things that make me feel like my husband is will live forever. When I'm gone,
Yeah.
people, I have a rocking chair at the senior citizens center with
Hmm.
the plaque with his name on it. When I'm long gone, that rocking chair, somebody say, "Who is this guy? Who is this Dedrick Bowden who retired from the military?"
Yeah.
So doing we give scholarships in his name.
Wow.
So
That's so
do some new things that will help you remember them, because one thing I believe in is talking about your loved one that's passed away.
yeah.
I feel like that is something that is so wonderful. When you have great memories, why not share them? They
Yeah.
typically make you smile, they make you laugh, they
Hmm.
make you feel good.
Yeah.
So those are some of the ways that we can do it. Even like when you're together, like at holiday time,
Hmm.
everybody say something that they remember about the loved one, you
Yeah.
know. Talk about the memories, talk about, the good things. Those are some of the things that you can do to pick up the pieces to move on. I went to jazz festivals. We used to go to jazz festivals. I would still go to those, my granddaughter and I, or I would go myself and
Yeah.
just have a good time.
Yeah.
Just have a good time.
Yeah.
My
That is so
granddaughter cooks a lot of stuff that he cooked because he was a great chef. Oh my gosh, he was a great.
wow.
My husband would go and catch fresh fish, bring them home, fillet them, and cook them. I mean,
Oh
people
my
people
goodness.
knew how well he cooked, and they would spend time in the kitchen. It's something she picked up, and that's a memory. That's a
Yeah.
great memory when she does. Every time she does pancakes that are just like perfect, it's like,
Yeah.
girl, you like your pawpaw.
oh.
So yeah, so just doing those things that they loved.
Yeah.
It's
And
great.
I like that you mentioned like something to do during the holidays because the holidays are, literally Thanksgiving is I think it's next week. The holidays are pretty much here.
Mhm.
And, going around the table and saying some things, some fond memories about the person. I think that's
Mhm.
awesome, because it will put a smile on your face,
Yes.
some funny times, some things that you had with that person or with the
Mhm.
individual. So I like that because that can definitely help. And everybody at the table, oh yeah, I remember when, they used to do X, Y, and Z, or
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's cool. That can definitely like help, with the memory and stuff. Now, you briefly touched on this, but when it comes to grieving, is there a different type of grief when it comes to comparing the loss of a loved one and the loss of a marriage or relationship? Do you think there's really a difference if you
No,
compare
because
the two?
it's an individual thing.
Okay.
Um, no one can tell anyone the depths of their love
Okay.
or their feelings.
Right.
And we all have different emotional uh, ways about us, So
Right. Right.
the the um the feelings that people have are unique.
Yeah.
I mean, I've personally seen girlfriends who were about to die, about losing a relationship, half
Yeah.
of one, but
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
the way that they responded to it. And you cannot discount people's feelings. People
Right.
people have to have therapy behind losing their pets. So
Yes.
the love, how you love on a person or a thing or
Yeah.
an object, that's who you are.
Yeah.
And no one can say, how you should feel about it or whatever. And I personally known an individual to commit suicide after their parent died.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that individual's love and attachment to her
Yeah.
mother
Hmm.
was on a level that I don't know. So I
Yeah.
cannot say, you cannot say how a person is going to um, grieve about
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
We grieve for celebrities we've never met.
That is true. I remember when I was in high school, when I had heard that Aaliyah passed away.
Mhm.
I was sad. I think I may have even like shed a tear, and I didn't even know that lady.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right. Mhm.
But yeah, like that is true. Like
Yeah.
even celebrities, people cry when celebrities, like even with I think Kobe Bryant, that,
Yes. Mhm.
and just
Mhm.
different other celebrities that have passed away. Yeah, people have
Yeah.
grief for them.
So that's an attachment, and that we just don't know.
And Jonah said, I knew you were gonna say Aaliyah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean I did. I thought that was very sad, And and I think when it comes, because most people, especially if you yeah, I don't know, if you've been past or at least in high school, even middle school, when it comes to breakups and stuff like that, like it's the end of the world sometimes,
Mhm. Oh,
you
yeah.
know. And yeah, I mean, we've been through that first love heartbreak, you don't know what you're gonna do and how you're gonna eat. And sometimes, I mean, you don't even know like especially if you've been with somebody for a lengthy amount of time, it's kind of like, even if you weren't married to the person, I do advocate for a marriage, but let's just say the person was dating for several years and then there's a breakup.
Mhm.
It's sometimes it's almost like there's a divorce, especially if again, I don't advocate for living together before marriage. That's not my views. But if the person was living together um, prior to marriage or anything like that, um, and you're having to, pack up things, maybe y'all had joint bank accounts. And I'm saying this because these are things that I did. I don't believe that now, but yes, at one point I was living in a relationship, or I was living together or living with someone that I was not married to.
Mhm.
Um, And so when I was going through my transition of that breakup, it's like, okay, I'm, you know, changing bank accounts, taking people off bank accounts, you know, packing up stuff, moving out stuff. And so going through that was like traumatic for me,
Mhm.
at the time or whatever. And yeah, so I mean, I can, so it's not just necessarily like, okay, like, so I agree with you that grief of a loved one and also a relationship, there's no, I'm trying to figure out the right words. You can't say, oh, well, it's just a relationship. Like,
Right.
no,
It's,
like,
there are no levels.
no levels,
Yeah, no
exactly.
levels of grief. No,
No
no.
levels of grief,
Mm.
so you can grieve for a relationship
Yeah.
and
Grief
just as,
grief grief replaces where love was. So
right, right.
that's the whole thing. If you love somebody, something that and it go is not there anymore, you're going to grieve it.
Yeah. And so when I was going through that, it almost felt like, even though I have not been married yet, at the time, I felt like I was going through a divorce.
Oh
Like I
yeah. It
literally
sounds
felt
like it.
like, yeah, I felt like I was separating like things. And I felt like a piece of me was literally missing
Yeah.
after some time or whatever. Um, but yeah, there's no levels to grief, whether that's a
Mhm.
relationship, whether that's a pet, a loved one. Um, Jonas, she said that was good, Marjorie. Yeah. So what you were explaining, you have a book, and I know you were talking about it early on the show. You have a book entitled "Reaching the Rainbows." Can you give us a little bit more information? Can you tell us a little bit more again about what this book is about and the inspiration behind it?
Well, it was just me thinking about everything that I had gone through and the things I concentrated on
Hmm.
um, to help me to continue to live, to
Yeah.
go on. Um, it was me realizing that the Word of God is what was going to help me.
Yeah.
The meditation on it, the praying constantly for strength and direction. Um, I try to be physically healthy, and
Yeah.
I had not been even walking, and just realizing that the sun, God's grass, the sky, all those things I had been missing.
Yeah.
And you can't, it's hard to heal emotionally and mentally when your physical flesh is weak.
Hmm.
So being able to do those things again made me so happy.
Yeah.
Um, and giving myself time,
Hmm.
not putting myself down because I was at a low point, a weak point.
Right.
Um, having affirmations to let me to repeat,
Hmm.
meditating on those things was
Yeah.
good for me. So getting back to the things that I love, like music,
Yeah.
and I remember my granddaughter was like, "It's so quiet around here," because we were so used to singing. My husband was a choir director, so when he was practicing a song, he was, directing and leading, and I was the choir. So, so that's getting back to that
Yeah.
was is good. Getting back to the things that you love to do, because we all have things that we like to do, even if it's just reading a book
Yeah.
that gives us solace, that gives us peace. We
Yeah.
all have things that we like to do. I love
Absolutely.
going to concerts. I love music. So um, those things are what I wanted to share,
Yeah.
because we have to have hope that it will get better.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be able to share the things that I did to help me feel better. And it was okay to be angry, and journaling, me
Yeah.
writing out my feelings. I did that
Yes.
for a couple of years. That
Yeah.
really helped me,
Yeah.
um, to be able to write out how I was feeling, and to write out my anger, because I was in that stage for a minute.
Yeah.
Um, so those things were important to me to share, because I did meet people who were not doing so well, who
Yeah.
were widows. I met a lady who, shortly after her husband died, she passed away as well. So,
Oh,
you know, we all need encouragement, and no
that's
matter
right.
what's going on in our lives. So that was a way that I felt like I could help other people.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I mean, I feel like your book is definitely encouraging people. I know you do speaking engagements all over, and so you're definitely like touching the world. You know what I mean? And I feel like God has turned that pain into purpose, and
Mhm.
you're helping others. Um, we're gonna be wrapping up here shortly, but I want to ask you one last thing. So, since I mentioned the holidays are pretty much upon us, can you
Mhm.
provide some words of encouragement to those that maybe are currently, maybe they just recently lost a loved one, or even if they didn't, maybe they're still just going through their process? What kind of words of encouragement would you give to them?
Well, one thing that's important to me is creating boundaries.
Yeah.
Um, there will be people who may encourage you, or browbeat you into going to a family event or some other kind of event that you really don't feel like being around people at the
Yeah.
moment. That is okay.
Yeah.
You set your boundaries of what you feel like you can handle.
Hmm.
Um, you don't have to succumb to the wishes of everybody. If you want to go somewhere that you know they'll be all day and you only want to stay 1 hour, you do that. You
Yeah.
do what is best for you.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes people can say things that are they mean well,
Hmm.
but they are damaging to your spirit, or
Hmm.
they may not sit well with you.
Yeah.
Um, Try to accept that it's coming from a good place. I hate to see people get very upset about what others say to them,
Yeah.
because I feel like you can absorb what people say, or you can repel it. And
Yeah.
you don't have to repel in a horrible way, but
Yeah.
just don't accept everything that is negative, that may come across as negative.
Yeah.
Um, Keep your hope, that you have, and try to write out your feelings, especially during holiday times. You may have something that's special, about the time that you want to get off your chest.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said before, do something during the holidays to help other people. Go serve at a homeless shelter. Um, get some clothes together that you want to give away to
Yeah.
help other people, because helping other people really helps yourself.
Yeah.
So if you can do those things, and remember that grief is hard no matter what time of year it is.
Yeah.
So if you need to get some counseling, if you need to go to a support group, some people feel better being around family. If that's what you need, do what is best for you. But
Yeah.
whatever you do, keep moving, keep
Yeah.
going. Don't feel like you're alone.
Hmm.
Please don't feel like you're alone. There are a lot of people like myself who are there to help. So
Yeah.
my you can reach me on marjorielandbowden.com. Any way that you can get in touch with me by email or phone. There's a support group that I have that's on my page, MLB Enterprises. So reach out for help. No, if nothing else, I'm there for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Marjorie. Um, what other upcoming projects or things, we're going to be wrapping up, but what other projects or things can we be on the lookout for you? Are you
Well,
working on anything new, any books or
no, my
conferences?
granddaughter has a nonprofit, Alpha Love to
Okay.
Life,
Okay.
that she started for her papa. We give scholarships from it. She has a grief relief for youth every year. And that's starting to become a little more active because I apply for grants for her, and she gives me different activities that she wants to do. And she mainly works with girls. This past event she did was there's a smash it place where you go and just smash things, and she wanted to
Yes.
concentrate on the anger part of the grief stage. And
Okay.
she had people come together, and we had lunch, and a speaker, life coach Jackie Thomas, she
Okay.
came and spoke to them about the grief process. And they actually, some had some recent deaths, and the ability to just tear up something and get that grief out was the girls felt very good about that.
Yes,
So
like therapeutic.
those are the things that I work on for my granddaughter Savannah. Different events for girls. I think next she wants to do a team building type exercise at the escape room.
Nice.
So we work together on different things.
Nice, nice. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Um, Thank you guys for tuning in. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Marjorie? I want to give you guys a few moments just in case. Marjorie, while I'm waiting, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. I know tonight was definitely a heavy topic. I mean, grief is never, um, an easy topic to talk about, but I thank you for your vulnerability. I thank you, for sharing your stories, like with your husband and things like that, and just how you got through it. And I know early on we were talking about domestic violence.
Yes.
Thank you for opening up about that too, because again, that's like tonight was definitely a very very heavy topic. Um, so yeah, so if anybody has any questions or for Marjorie, just put them in the chat, and we can ask her or comments or anything like that. You can follow Marjorie on Facebook at Marjorie Lynn Bowden, MLB Enterprises. Thank you, Jonah, for putting that in the chat. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, um, Marjorie, again, can we see your book again? Can you tell us where we can find that or your books?
Okay.
I know one's yours and one's your granddaughter's, right?
Right.
Okay.
Both are available on my website, marjorielynbowden.com, and they're available for purchase there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys can purchase Marjorie's books on her website. Are they on Amazon, or are they on both?
No, these are here on just on my website. They started
On the
off on
website.
Amazon, but they're on my website. We
They're on your
package
website.
and mail them out ourselves.
Nice. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So you guys go and purchase Marjorie's books. I'm also going to plug mine. I have my shirt, one of them that I'm wearing right now, and then the Aunt Lucy's collection of life lessons. This is on Amazon. My shirt is on 1849 .live. And then here's another shirt. This is just my 1849 shirt. So if if you guys would like to purchase it, you can certainly do so on my website. It will take you to Etsy. It'll redirect you to Etsy, or you can find me at 1849 Boutique on Etsy if you type that in. Marjorie, I want to thank you so much.
Sure.
Where can we follow you on? So Facebook, we got Marjorie Lynn Bowden. Are you on Instagram or we got your website, marjorielynbowden.com. So you guys
Mhm.
can follow her there or locate her
Right.
website and reach out. Do you have an Instagram or anything?
It's on my website.
It's on the website. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm. Everything is
Okay.
there.
So you guys go and follow Margie, purchase her books, give her a shout out and she's been so gracious. If you have any questions about grief or you need to talk
Mhm.
to her or anything like that, she's been so gracious to extend that. You guys reach out to her if you need to for whatever reason. Marjorie, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me on this podcast. I know tonight was a very, very heavy topic. We got through it. Thank you I think people were set free tonight, and we're just encouraged by your testimony. So just, hearing that. So I just want to thank you so much again. And I just pray for blessings for you, Marjorie, you and your granddaughter. And I pray that God just continues to enlarge your territory and just continues to use you.
Same for you, dear. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. You're welcome. And thank you so much. God bless you guys. Thank you also for tuning in. And you can catch the replay if you want to go back and listen to some of the things that Marjorie had mentioned, if you caught the tail end or the middle. So I hope everybody has a good night tonight. Thank you again, Margie, and God bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.